to the Once Again podcast. We are your hosts, Ashley and Jason. In this episode, we'll be looking at the 1977 film, Pete's Dragon. In this series, we won't be doing a deep analysis of the film, or giving a bunch of behind-the-scenes facts, but rather giving our impressions of the overall film and the songs from the film. We'll also be giving a score to the film and ranking the songs. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and enjoy this episode. Pete's Dragon is a 1977 American live-action animated musical fantasy film directed by Don Chaffee, produced by Jerome Cortland and Ron Miller, and written by Malcolm Morriston. Based on the unpublished short story Pete's Dragon and the USA Forever After by Stenton I. Miller and S.S. Field. The project was initially conceived in 1957 as a two-part episode of the Disneyland television series, but it was shelved until it was revised as a musical film in 1975. Perhaps it should have stayed shelved, but we'll get into it. The film was released on November 3rd, 1977 to mixed reviews from critics, though some praised the animation. It was a moderate financial success, with a budget of $10 million, or $49 million today, and a grossing of $18 million, or $88 million today. The film received 2 nominations at the 50th Academy Awards for musical scoring and original song. Capitol Records released a single of Helen Reddy performing Candle on the Water with a different arrangement from that in the film, that reached number 27 on the adult contemporary charts. Pete's Dragon premiered on November 3rd, 1977 at Radio City Music Hall for its intended roadshow theatrical release, in which the film ran 134 minutes. For its general release, it was edited down to 121 minutes. It was later re-released on March 9th, 1984, shortened from 121 minutes to 104 minutes.
Still too long.
Yeah. The film was released on VHS in 1980. It was re-released on VHS on October 28th, 1994, as part of the Masterpiece Collection. It was originally slated to be released in the Walt Disney Gold Classic Collection lineup on December 5th, 2000, but it was pushed back to January 16th, 2001. The DVD includes bonus features such as 2 animated shorts, Lighthouse Keeping and Man, and Monsters and Mysteries, and 2 vintage excerpts from the Disney Family Album episode on Ken Anderson and the Plausible Impossible from Disneyland, and both theatrical trailers for the film. The film was re-released in a High Flying Edition DVD on August 18th, 2009. The DVD included a half-hour documentary featurette, a deleted storyboard sequence, original demo recordings of the songs, and several bonus features transferred from the Gold Classic Collection release. It was re-released on the 35th Anniversary Edition Blu-ray on October 16th, 2012, which just makes me sad that 1977 and 2012 are only 35 years apart, because I remember 2012 and 1977 seems so long ago, but yeah.
All right. It was edited by Gordon D. Brenner. Music by Irwin Kostel. Production company was Walt Disney Productions. Distributed by Buena Vista Distribution. The runtime is 128 minutes. Way too long in my opinion. Starring Helen Reddy as Nora, Jim Dale as Dr. Terminus, Mickey Rooney as Lampy, Red Buttons as Hoagie, Shelley Winters as Lena Gogan, Sean Marshall as Pete, Jane Keane as Miss Romy Taylor, Jim Backus as the mayor of Passamaquoddy, Charles Tyner as Merle Gogan, Gary Morgan as Grover Gogan, Jeff Conway as Willie Gogan, Cal Bartlett as Paul, Charlie Callis as the voice of Elliot the Dragon, and Walter Barnes as captain of the ship.
Very nice. I was thinking that maybe you would call Jim Backus the mayor of Passamaquoddy. Passamaquoddy?
Passamaquoddy.
Yeah, that's... No, but because of the song that was in it and everything. I actually did enjoy that song when we get to it, but
To be fair, one of my notes about Passamaquoddy is what a name for a town, because
yeah.
I think that's one of the high points of this film is
I have to agree. But let's dive into the plot. A young orphan named Pete is fleeing his abusive foster family, the Gogans, while seemingly able to fly. As they pursue him, an unseen force, which Pete calls Elliot, distracts them. And here we have the song Happiest Home in These Hills, sung by Shelley Winters, Charles Tinner, Gary Morgan, and Jeff Conaway. And I wrote down, wow, not exactly a strong start to the film. I get what it was going for. It's comedic, and the off-key singing is intentionally done, but still, I'm not a fan. 3.5 out of 10.
I gave it a 4 out of 10. It's not a good song. It's not a strong start. And, literally, I was already confused. I was I don't really remember this movie, but I was already oh, I don't like wherever this is going. Lord.
Yeah, and it only keeps getting worse,
It really
I think.
does.
Lena, her husband Merle, and their sons Grover and Willie are determined to find Pete because, in Lena's own words, we paid $50 for that kid and we ain't got 50 more. The lazy, inept, and constantly bickering Grover and Willie are told by their equally hellish parents that if we don't get him back, you two boys are going to have to start working on the farm with your own two hands. The next morning, Pete and Elliot, revealed to be a dragon, share breakfast and decide to visit a nearby town called Passamaquoddy. Due to the clumsy antics of the invisible Elliot, Pete is labeled a source of ill luck and runs away to avoid being detained by the furious townspeople. And here we have the song Bop, 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 I Love You Too, in parentheses, sung by Sean Marshall and Charlie Callis. And I wrote down, I don't think the off-key singing here was on purpose. That being said, it's an improvement over the last song, and with a better singer, it probably would have gotten a better score from me, so I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Yep, I gave it a 5 out of 10 as well.
Okay.
It's an okay song.
Yeah, this is the song that I most clearly remembered from the movie. I watched this movie a lot as a kid, and I really liked it as a kid, so watching it this time and being disappointed in it was very disappointing for me. And I also have a note here that I wrote that Elliot's design is very similar to the Reluctant Dragon, something that I never noticed before.
To be fair, I'm sure we never really watched The Reluctant Dragon, either one of us. So.
Yeah. Lampy, the lighthouse keeper, stumbles out of the tavern and encounters Pete. A mischievous Elliot makes himself visible to him, and he, terrified, runs into the saloon to warn the townspeople. His capable daughter, Nora, takes him back to their home, the local lighthouse, settles him down, and puts him to bed. And here we have the song I Saw a Dragon, sung by Mickey Rooney, Helen Reddy, and an ensemble. And I wrote that it's all right and nothing special. Perhaps Lampy and Nora are early inspirations for Maurice and Belle, because we have a drunk father here and everything. But another live-action Disney movie with a dance sequence that goes on for far too long. And I gave it a 4 out of 10.
I gave it a 6 out of 10. I actually like the song a little bit. And you're right, though, the dance sequence goes on. I was like, oh, here we go. Damn dance sequences again that we don't need.
This is longer than Step in Time or anything.
I was telling Jason that my first reaction seeing this movie was 2 hours was 2 hours.
Yeah.
I was not thrilled to have to sit through and I think things like the dance sequence, eat that out and we got a nice, tidy movie. This... Yeah. We'll get there.
This was longer than Step in Time or, I don't remember the one from... Bedknobs and Broomsticks that went on for too long, but it's another one that has a way too long dance sequence, and this one is especially because they're supposed to be drunk sailors in a bar. Okay, maybe they'll dance for 5 minutes, but they want to get back to drinking.
Well, yeah, and even I think of things like Gaston, that song doesn't go on that long, and
no.
it almost fits the same vibe of we're in a tavern and there's people singing.
And Gaston, the dancing happens while the singing's happening.
Yeah.
It's not like they sing the
singing
song and then
pause halfway through the song.
Yeah, exactly. But meanwhile, in a seaside cave, Pete rebukes Elliot for causing trouble. As they make up, Nora appears, having spotted Pete earlier. She offers him shelter, and they talk. Pete is inquisitive and soon learns the story of Nora's fiancé, Paul, whose ship was reported lost at sea. He promises to ask Elliot about Paul, and she accepts, believing Elliot to be an imaginary friend. And here we have the song It's Not Easy, sung by Sean Marshall and Helen Reddy. And I wrote, all right song again, but nothing special. Maybe a modern twist would be better. 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a... Where is it? 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10.
Yeah. The next morning, Dr. Terminus, a medicine showman, and his assistant Hoagie haphazardly arrive and manage to win over the gullible townspeople, who are initially angered by their return. And I wrote a note here saying, that poor man's fence. First Elliot and now Dr. Terminus. They both knocked down this guy's fence when they showed up in the town. And we have the song Passamaquoddy, sung by Jim Dale, Red Buttons, and an ensemble. And I wrote that it's probably the funniest song so far, but yet again, it went on for too long. 4 out of 10.
Yep, gave it a 4 out of 10. It went on too long. I think that's the thing of this, is all the songs are not that good, and then they go on too long. And
yeah. Disney needed to get the Sherman Brothers back and tighten up the songs.
Tighten everything up. Nothing was tight in this movie. It was all,
yeah,
weirdly haphazard and long. Even a lot of the, sequences. The children doing stuff. It's, again, just these sequences don't need to be going that long.
Did you know this? I had to look it up, but this is the same Jim Dale that narrated the Harry Potter audiobooks.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was just I was fascinated because obviously he's doing an American accent here, but he's actually British, and he does an impressive American accent, in my opinion.
Interesting.
I do have a note about it later, but we'll discuss that when it comes up. That evening, Pete visits Elliot, and Nora thanks Lampy for pretending that Elliot exists. He insists he actually saw him, and she tells him to be realistic, to which he retorts that her hoping for Paul's return is just as unrealistic. He apologizes for his outburst and excuses himself, giving her time to think. And here we have Candle on the Water, sung by Helen Reddy. And I wrote, could be a song on the radio. Yet again, nothing really that impressive. It sounds like a bad ABBA song to me. So I gave it a 6 out of 10.
I gave it a 5 out of 10. This is the song I know that people, talk about from this movie. But that's all I, got to go on.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it sounds like a bad ABBA song. They'd have Dancing Queen and all those other...
Well, they said it wasn't your notes earlier that they did redid a version that's not the same
yeah, it got number 27.
Number 27.
Yeah.
So clearly this is a very popular song, just not from the movie necessarily.
Mm-hmm. At the tavern, Lampy tells Dr. Terminus and Hoagie about Elliot. Dr. Terminus dismisses the tale, but Hoagie agrees to go to the cave. After an encounter with Elliot, in which all three, including Elliot, become frightened, Hoagie offers him some liquor as a gesture of peace, which triggers a fiery belch that chases them away. And I wrote down, okay, I actually laughed out loud at Elliot being scared of his own shadow.
Oh, yeah. I love that Elliot was like, we're talking about a big scary dragon, not me.
Yeah. And it was my
Elliot.
It was my first real laugh of the movie, so good on that. The local fishermen complain about the recent scarcity of fish and believe that Pete is the cause. Nora reminds them the fishing grounds shift from time to time and that there's room for everyone in the town. And here we have the song There's Room for Everyone, sung by Helen Reddy, Sean Marshall, and an ensemble. And I wrote down that I don't know how many times I can say that the song is just okay, but nothing special. This one is probably the most Disney-like, meaning I could picture it in Mary Poppins or Bedknobs and Broomsticks. But besides that, it's nothing that impressive, and yet another unnecessary dance scene. 4 out of 10.
I think you hit why I kind of like this, because it's the most Disney-like of all the songs. It feels we're watching a live-action Disney movie. I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Okay. Nora takes Pete to start school, where he is punished unfairly by Miss Taylor, the strict town teacher, as a result of Elliot's antics. He, enraged, Elliot that is, smashes through the schoolhouse. And I wrote that Miss Taylor is a monster, and I wouldn't let her anywhere near a child.
Oh yeah, she's so angry, and awful.
Yeah. I watched this movie a couple weeks ago, so I don't remember exactly what I didn't like about Miss Taylor, but I wrote it down, enough to put a note in there. Or I didn't like her enough to put a note in there. Dr. Terminus, now convinced of Elliot's existence and having learned that dragon anatomy has many medical uses, makes Pete an offer for Elliot, to which Pete refuses. And here we have the song Every Little Piece, sung by Jim Dale and Red Buttons. And I wrote a somewhat comedic villain song, different from the others before it, but yet again, nothing that special. 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10 as well. It's an okay song.
Yeah. And here's my note. I said, I also happened to notice how Jim Dale's lip movements were off. He was saying the same things as his lip movements, but they were just slightly off. And I wondered if the scenes were shot and he used his natural British accent, and then in post they gave him an American accent.
You know what? I noticed that too. And for a while I was like, it's like audio just off from the movie. Yeah. You know that happens sometimes, but no, it's just him.
Yeah, it's specifically just him. So I think maybe when he was shooting it, he used his British accent, and they were like, no, you got to be an American or whatever. I'm not sure. Pete gladly accepts Nora and Lampy's offer to live with them. And here we have the song. This is another thing, too, is that there's too many songs in this movie.
Oh, my God, I know. Again, like, yeah. And, like, you know, we know Mary Poppins, but, like, there was songs in that, but they weren't, like, it's like every scene we got. Yeah. Like, it's, like, full-on musical. Like, we got that many songs. And I'm like, none of these things require songs.
Yeah. And you
just cut half of it. Sorry.
No,
sorry,
you're fine.
Just cut half of it.
You liked Bedknobs and Broomsticks more than I did, and I liked Mary Poppins more than you. But I would say the worst Bedknobs and Broomsticks songs, and I think you would agree the worst Mary Poppins songs, are still better than the best songs in this movie.
Yeah, like, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. But we have the song Brazzle Dazzle Day, sung by Helen Reddy, Sean Marshall, and Mickey Rooney. And I wrote that this song shows off Helen Reddy's vocal talents. Aside from that, just another average song. Once again, no pun intended. Accompanied by an unnecessary dance number, and I'm starting to get annoyed with how many of them there are in this movie. 5 out of 10. The score would be a 4, but Helen Reddy did do a fantastic job singing this song.
I gave it a 6, but I also think that's probably because she was doing such a great job singing that I was, like, finally, like, trying to move past the fact that there was too much dancing and everything was awful at this point.
And everyone's favorite characters, the Gogans, arrive in town and confront them, only to be firmly defied by Nora, thwarted by Elliot. Dr. Terminus makes a deal with them and convinces them that helping him capture Elliot will solve their problems. Which they were unnecessary characters. Dr. Terminus should have been the only villain, in my opinion, but whatever. And yet again, we have another song, Bill of Sale, sung by Shirley Winters, Charles Tyner, Gary Morgan, Jeff Conway, and Helen Reddy. And I wrote just stupid on to the next one, 2 out of 10.
And I also gave it a 2 out of 10. It wasn't good. And yeah, I think, like, one of the things that could make this film better is just cut out the entire Gogan plotline. Like, it's unnecessary. Yeah. Like, does it give him a sadder background? Yeah, but wasn't him, like, running away from home sad enough? Like, yeah, we could have, like, literally cut these characters out, and, like, we'd probably cut an entire, like, half hour out of the movie just cutting their entire plotline out.
Agreed. That evening, a storm is beginning to blow. Pete tries to tell Nora the good news that Elliot found Paul, and he's on his way home. However, she, still believing that Pete has just imagined Elliot, replies that there's no more need for him to believe in Elliot. Even Lampy begins to doubt that he saw him. Undeterred, Pete helps Nora prepare the lighthouse for the storm. Out at sea, a sailing ship is approaching Passamaquoddy. Its captain is assisted by Paul. Meanwhile, Dr. Terminus lures Pete to the boathouse, while Hoagie does the same to Elliot. Once there, Elliot discovers Pete, but is caught in an immense net. He frees himself and rescues Pete from the Gogans before they can escape. And I wrote a note here saying, okay, the invisible dragon caught in the net is a pretty cool special effect for that time period.
Yeah, and I was telling Jason in the car that, like, a lot of the special effects involving the animation are probably the only, like, really good things about this movie, like how the animation interacts with the real life characters. It's very well done for the time period.
Agreed. But we should expect that from Disney at this point.
We should, but
it is when we're looking for good things to talk about.
When you're looking for like the one thing that's like a redeeming quality, like that's it at this point.
Yeah. Elliot incinerates the bill of sale, then douses the Gogans with a barrel of tar before chasing them off. As Pete and Elliot celebrate, Dr. Terminus aims a harpoon gun at the latter, but its rope is looped around his ankle and he is sent flying through the ceiling. And I wrote, there was a smidgen of the Goofy yell when Dr. Terminus is launched into the air. Mm-hmm. You heard just a little bit of that.
I did.
After rebuking Dr. Terminus and Hoagie, Elliot saves the mayor and other townspeople from a falling telegraph pole, revealing himself to the grateful townspeople. Back at the lighthouse, the lamp has been extinguished by the storm-driven waves. Elliot comes and tries to relight it with his own fire. As he is doing so, Nora finally sees that he is real. After several failures, the lamp is relit and the ship is saved. And I wrote a note here saying there is absolutely no way that Elliot's little wings could possibly let him fly. His body is way too big for those little wings, but whatever.
Also, I want to know, like, most lighthouses are put on, and like you could see, they're put on these giant cliffs. What giant wave came and like took out the light?
A giant one.
Like, if it came, that wave took out the entire town too.
Yeah.
Like, what are we even talking about? A wave?
No, it was just a wave that went straight up. It didn't go out. It just went straight up.
Listen, I know I gotta suspend disbelief sometimes, but like that's like a physics.
Yeah.
Water physics.
Well, and I'm also talking about the physics of Elliot being able to fly. It's impossible. As a reward for doing this, Nora gives Elliot a kiss. He is scared that he will become invisible after being kissed, and he does. The next morning, the townspeople praise Elliot for his help, and Nora is reunited with Paul, who, as it turns out, was the sole survivor of the shipwreck at Cape Hatteras. And here we have the song I Saw a Dragon reprise, sung by a chorus, and I wrote down different lyrics from the first version and giving the feeling of wrapping up the story. 5 out of 10.
Yes, I gave that a 5 out of 10 as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
However, Paul suffered total amnesia due to his ordeal in the storm. Then, one day recently, his bed suddenly tipped over, courtesy of an invisible Elliot. He bumped his head and got his memory back. That's totally how you cure amnesia. You just have to get hit in the head really hard. Every movie and TV show has taught me that. Now that Pete is safe and has a loving family of his own, Elliot reveals that he must go. He and Pete say their sad goodbyes, and he flies off to help other children in need. And here we have the song Brazzle Dazzle Day reprise, sung by Helen Reddy, Sean Marshall, Mickey Rooney, and Cal Bartlett. And I wrote, thank goodness it's over, cool helicopter shot flying around the lighthouse on the to end the film on. And the song is just 2 lines. I gave it a 5 out of 10.
I gave it a 5 out of 10 as well.
Okay. So let's go into our overall scores. Would you like to go
Oh,
first?
I will go first.
Okay.
So, I don't even know if I remember liking this kid or really seeing this film, like seeing this as a kid. Like, I don't remember much of this movie, but also, it was just a very long movie. Like I said, the minute I saw it was 2 hours, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a slog. Like, I knew already, because it's that time period, none of these things, like, if we... it's too much dancing, too much singing. Like, this is not a musical. I assume it's not meant to be at the very least. And here we have a musical in full swing. Get rid of the Gogans. They're awful, awful characters. And as much as I like Elliot, like, I feel like there's not enough story going on in this 2 hours to, like, warrant this entire film. So I gave it a 4 out of 10.
Okay. And I wrote down, wow, so I remembered really liking Pete's Dragon when I was a kid, but watching it this time was just painful. It's long, the songs are average at best, and the characters are mostly annoying. Every time the Gogans were on screen, I wanted the movie to be over, and most of the comedy fell flat. I will say that I did enjoy Jim Dale as Dr. Terminus and Helen Reddy as Nora, but even their good performances couldn't save lousy songs or the overall film. The 2016 version of this movie is so much better. Skip this one, and I gave it a 3 out of 10.
I think this is the first time we've been really, really harsh on something.
Yeah.
I think we
were harsh on Crimes of Grindelwald too. We weren't as harsh as this, but and it pains me to say this, Crimes of Grindelwald is a much better movie than this. Not that I think Crimes of Grindelwald is a good movie, but it's much better than this. I think the thing is,
Crimes of Grindelwald, its issues are like
the writer.
Yeah, like it's just writing issues 100%.
Yeah, this has issues all around the board. But at least it's not racist. You know, we'll give Disney a point for that.
Racist.
Yeah. You know, could have very easily. Where was it? I guess it was supposed to take place in New England, like a New England type of town.
I guess that would have been my guess.
Because it has to be a coastal town.
It gave me very like Connecticut.
Yeah.
Connecticut vibes.
I think the 2016 one takes place in like Washington State or something. Because I remember like redwood trees being in it. But maybe this was supposed to be, because like the name Passamaquoddy, like that's I guess that could have been a New England town named after some type of Native American tribe or something.
I could see there being one in like Connecticut or Massachusetts.
Yeah. All right.
Rhode Island. Passamaquoddy, Rhode Island totally sounds like it would be a thing.
Yeah. All right, well, anything else you'd like to say about it? Or...
No, let's end this.
Okay.
End our suffering, their suffering.
All right. This has been the Once Again Podcast. Any questions, comments, or critiques can be addressed to our email at onceagainpod@gmail.com. Follow us on our social media accounts, Once Again Pod, all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you would like to contribute to the podcast, we have several tiers available on patreon.com/onceagainpod. As always, a like, follow, or share would be greatly appreciated. Thank you and have a wonderful day. And remember, we will entertain you. We will always entertain you. Unlike Pete's Dragon. Rumpelstiltskin always says that magic comes with a price. But for this price, you can get a nice piece of jewelry. Use code ONCEPOD for 10% off your first order at Unusual Magic Jewelry on Etsy. Click the link in the description.